folks, welcome back to My Kitten Reads. I'm Eleanor and this is my slightly belated January wrap-up. Sorry there was no video last week. I've been having shoulder problems again, which has been affecting my concentration and my ability to sit up. But yes, my slightly belated January wrap-up. I read 12 books in January. I had a very good reading month. Variable as to how that I did on my various goals, monthly goals for the year, but still a very good reading month. So what did I start the month with? I started the month by finally reading Carry On by Rowell. So I have, the previous Rowell book that I have read was Fangirl, in which the main protagonist wrote fan fiction for this series of books that were Harry Potter-esque about Simon Snow. So this Carry On is the book that she wrote where it's not technically the Simon Snow books that this character was reading. It wasn't technically her fan fiction, but it is a Simon Snow novel. So it's fantasy, it's set at a magical school, it's a chosen one narrative at the Watford School for Magics. He has a nemesis who is very Draco Malfoy-esque. He has friends. There are magic-eating monsters, and it is running around wearing Simon's face. So, yeah, there's a mystery, there's something to solve, and there's a gay romance. So, I also adore that. It was a lot of fun to read, and so I'm very pleased I finally read it. It's been sitting on my TBR for quite some time. I followed that up by reading issue 27 of Uncanny magazine, which is what is really annoying about it is I rated it 5 stars on Goodreads. So I obviously really liked most of the stories in it. And then I failed to write any notes about it whatsoever. So yes, I believe I just did a little bit of a quick refresher, and there's a story about a polyamorous relationship that broke up because one of the couples had decided to move to Mars as part of the colony. But there's a lot in there about emotions and about love and the different types of love, and readjusting when something finishes that you didn't want to finish. And there was a sort of generationship story, which was quite tragic, and is what happens when power is vested in one particular class of people. And it had a whole thing about memories and what happens when you take away someone's bad memories so that they don't have to deal with things like guilt, and the problems that it causes when you don't learn those lessons because you don't have those memories anymore. So those are 2 of the stories that I can remember off the top of my head, but there were a whole bunch more. I really enjoyed this issue, clearly because I made it a 5-star, and I don't often make Uncanny magazine 5-star because it's often, the thing with short stories is it's often variable how many of them that you like in an issue. So I clearly really liked this issue. I just can't remember it. That's the problem with short stories. Then I read Squirrel Girl Volume 5, Like I'm the Only Squirrel in the World, by Ryan North and Erica Henderson. So this is more Squirrel Girl adventures. Yeah, so a lot of Squirrel Girl's history, Squirrel Girl meeting a whole bunch of other people with other powers, and general, shenanigans for Squirrel Girl. So I always love a Squirrel Girl comic. I believe this run has ended now, but I'm way behind, so I should still have a good few issues to go. I just haven't checked. But yes, The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, Volume 5. Then I did what seems to be my usual for sort of January, February, and started binging on Miss Fisher, and I finished the Miss Fisher series. So, first one that I read, Murder in the Dark, a Franny Fisher mystery. So this one in particular is a Christmas story, and Franny is invited to an extravaganza, the last best party of the year, of 1928, hosted by these twins who are just like pleasure-loving, rich. Anyway, she's invited but she's getting warnings about not going, including a very poisonous snake being sent to her in a Christmas parcel. But she goes anyway. And of course, there's a missing child and there's a murder. And yeah. So 3 people are kidnapped. One of them, a child, another missing child as well, hostages, all that kind of stuff in that kind of hedonistic life, which Bryony at times enjoys, but in times it's just like, what? It involves an assassin who's no one's ever caught before and all that kind of thing. So general Bryony shenanigans. Then I read Murder on a Midsummer Night. So in this particular one, it's the start of the year. It's really hot. And Bryony ends up investigating an apparent suicide and trying to find an illegitimate child for a will. And it turns out to be all kind of bound up in the same group of people. Yeah, so again, has Bryony getting very hot, very frustrated with idiots, and all sorts of family shenanigans bound up in 1920s morality. So, like I said, illegitimate children are a thing that in the late 19th century and early 20th century were quite shameful. So, yeah, it was quite interesting, and quite always a lot of fun, because Bryony is always fun. Then the next one I read was on ebook, because I was on a roll, so I got like 3 ebooks in a row. So we had Dead Man's Chest, in which Bryony goes on holiday to Queenscliff, having been frustrated in the previous couple of novels, and then arrives at the house that she's borrowing to find that the housekeeper and her husband have disappeared. Stuff has gone missing. And there's a whole buried treasure narrative. She falls in with some surrealists. And yeah, shenanigans. Lots and lots of shenanigans. While she's supposedly on holiday. Bryony's holidays don't always work out so well. Then I read Unnatural Habits. Again, another Bryony Fisher book. This time involving missing girls, missing pregnant girls, a missing journalist, and a laundry run by nuns. A very harsh laundry run by nuns. And white slavers. Yeah, so that's interesting. And, you know, again, Bryony's getting irritated with everybody around her. And then I finished up with the last Bryony Fisher book, Murder of Mendelssohn, which is about a choir whose choir masters keep dropping dead. I sing Mendelssohn, and so Bryony has to sort of actually start participating in this choir to try and figure out what's going on, because these choir masters keep dropping dead. Yeah. So that's full of all sorts of musical shenanigans, which I can kind of, apart from the murder thing, I can kind of relate to the musical shenanigans because I am in a choir, although my choir is all women and this is a full choir of both genders. But yes, and that is the last Bryony Fisher book of the series. So goal achieved for this year, trying to finish series. I have finished the Miss Fisher series. Then I started reading the newest Eleanor West's Home for Children book, but then realised, because it's been a while since I've read the other ones in the forward timeline. So the thing with the Home for Wayward Children books is you've got the timeline, the story that starts with Every Heart a Doorway and goes forward, and then you've got the books that come in between, which are looking backwards at people's origin stories. And so I started reading this new one and discovered that I didn't remember enough, particularly about Beneath the Sugar Sky, the second one in the forward-looking series. So I went back and I reread Every Heart a Doorway, which, I've said it so many times, is such an important book to me, because Nancy is the character that made me realise my own sexuality as an ace person. And yeah, so it's an incredibly important book, an incredibly sweet book, and very, very LGBTQ+. So that's Every Heart a Doorway. I reread it on audio. Then on audio, I also reread another Bryony book, because I am on a Bryony mood, and that is Ruddy Gore, which is the one where she meets a Lechin, for the first time and gets involved with shenanigans, murders and attempted murders and ghosts at a theatre. So that's, love a theatre book. So that was a good reread. Then I reread Beneath the Sugar Sky via audio, which is the second, of course, of the forward-looking books in the Every Heart Had Always series. And so, yeah, really enjoyed rereading this, where one of the girls who was killed in the first book, her daughter from her, sugary candy world appears because she's disappearing because her mother has been killed before she could come back and conceive her daughter. And so the timeline's been messed up. And so they go on this journey, the main characters go on this journey to try and find the bits and pieces of Suki and put her back together again and save the world, this world, Reni's world. So, yeah, so that's awesome as well. I really enjoyed rereading that. And then I finished off the month by reading Sleepy Hollow and Other Stories by Washington Irving. This is a little bonus book that I got in one of my Owl Crates a couple of years ago. It's a classic. It's sort of American folklore and ghost stories. Not really my thing. There was one story that wasn't a ghost story that I quite liked about a bride, although the way he writes about women is kind of terrible. And I skim read the last part, which was basically essays about the way the British celebrate Christmas, which is really weird at the end of a whole bunch of ghost stories. Really weird. It was literally like a travel journal and a bunch of essays on the topic of Christmas and Christmas celebrations. So, yeah, wasn't all that fond of this book. So, but that's another of my Owl Crate books off the shelf. So, overall, in terms of my goals, I finished a series. Yay. I read 3 books with major queer characters. Yay. I only read 1 book from my collection of subscription box books. So that's half done. Did not complete any books by authors of colour. I started one, which I have since completed, but yeah, that didn't go so well. But I still read 12 books and I'm pretty happy with my reading month. So if you've read any of those books and want to talk about them in the comments below, please do. Yeah, so I will see you all again really soon. Bye.